You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Alright, everybody here and everything, we good to go?
No, I'm not ready.
Okay, we got that on the air, so that's good.
Oh, really? Surprise! Jeez.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Wow.
Oh, well. Alright, we are here. It is episode 4. Whole lot going on this week. It is crossover week. Crossover day was yesterday as we record this show. You're going to get it on Monday. So as you're downloading this and listening to it, crossover day was this past Wednesday. We had a lot of bills cross on over to the other side from wherever they originated, and we had a lot more that died or at least are stuck until they're attached to something else. So we've got some crossover day stuff to talk about. We've all kind of had some interesting weeks personally here. Matt being the old man that he is, you know, there's a lot of things that really excite Matt that most people wouldn't think of. So Matt's odometer rolled over this week. The big
200,000.
200,000 miles. I mean, that's quite a feat for that truck. So,
Man, I love that truck. I'm hoping to get 3 out of it.
With a new motor, you will. Yeah. Hold on. I need to get this in before we go any further. Please remember that the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast reflects only the views of our hosts and guests, and not necessarily the views of All on Georgia. And then, Jessica has been dubbed a sunshine law expert. She's now, she has been speaking to Republican parties and about things like, getting the millennial vote and Georgia's sunshine laws. Speaking of odometers rolling over, I'm just wondering whether she's going to be able to pull that off when hers rolls over and she makes the big 3-0, Are the college kids still going to want to hang out with her?
Jessica has left the show.
Right? I don't think I've ever heard someone mad, but I heard that.
60% of Americans are too scared to visit the dentist.
I am one of those people.
Really?
I hate the dentist. There's nothing worse than the dentist.
Really? Like, I can think of 100 things worse than the dentist.
Roaches and then the dentist.
Roaches?
I mean, not actual dentists as in people, but I just hate the dentist. I don't like nothing about it is fun. They don't do anything that makes you feel good. Like, it's not, it's just not, it's
right.
It's not.
Other than a normal cleaning, if you're seeing them, things have gone sideways.
Right. I mean, it's probably like a traumatic event from my childhood, I'm sure, but I'm not a fan of the dentist. I've never had a cavity, which is lovely, but I didn't go to the dentist for like 11 years, and I managed to keep up my dental health all by myself, so I feel like they're kind of irrelevant anyway. I mean, just brush and floss. What?
Right. I mean, I think I tend to agree with you in that, if you brush and floss and keep up with it, you're okay until something happens. I don't know. I'm sure that we'll, have some angry dentist write in or whatever. Tell us how we're wrong.
If you're an angry dentist and you'd like to sponsor the All on Georgia podcast, Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, send us an email. We'll get you lined right up. We'll even have her read it.
Jessica at allongeorgia.com.
Part of what I didn't read the article, so I'm totally pulling like a traditional person right now of who reads stuff on the internet and just goes by headlines. But I'm assuming that part of what they're so scared of is the bill.
No, here's what it says. In part of it, it says, for what it's worth, dentists were feared almost 7 times as much as neurologists and more than twice as much as surgeons.
Wow.
Fear of the dental chair was deep-rooted for many. The average respondent began to feel distressed by the age of 15, with many carrying feelings of unease before turning 10.
Well, I think that I can kind of relate to that because I had a bad history with the dentist when I was a child. I don't really know what the root cause of it was, but for whatever reason, like I lost 3 baby teeth naturally, and the rest of them I still had at like 8 or 9 years old. So, of course, by then my adult teeth were completely coming in, and so I had a total of probably 12, maybe 14 baby teeth pulled in a time period of about 6 months. They would Novocaine me and pull like 5 and 6 baby teeth at a time. So, yeah.
That sounds terrible.
And speaking of that, I also have another great experience from high school. When I was 17 years old, I got my wisdom teeth pulled, and all I remember is sitting in a chair over at Cobb Hospital, talking to or in that general area. I can't remember if we were actually at the hospital, but I was talking to an oral surgeon. And she was explaining to me and my dad what she was going to do and how she was going to do it. That's the last thing I remember. The next thing that I remember is waking up in my bed. Apparently, in between, though, this is what happened. I go through, have my wisdom teeth pulled. I come back through, go through recovery. All that's just fine. They clear me to come home. I get in the truck with my dad. My dad stops at the Eckerd drugstore near my house to pick up my prescription that the oral surgeon gave me. I was dead asleep in the truck, and it's not like I was a baby. I was 17 years old. So he's like, you know what, I'm just going to let him sleep. So he goes into the Eckerd to fill the prescription. While he's inside the Eckerd, I get out and start, really gassy talking to people in the parking lot. Somebody freaks out enough that they call the sheriff's office out there. And the sheriff's office was about to take me in when my dad come out. And he's like, wait a minute. He's on the gas. He just had his wisdom teeth pulled.
He's on the gas.
I'm going to take him home. I promise. It was, yeah. But then again, I don't think I could be traumatized by that because I don't remember any of it.
So I read down far enough into the article to figure out what it is that people don't like. And 74% said it's pain during treatment, 47% said it's pain after, and 34% said it's the frightening noise of the dental drill.
See, I blame Hollywood for that.
Now, here's the really crazy part, right? 2 in 10 said they would rather give a speech to a large crowd of people.
Naked.
3 in 10 said they would rather than undergo a dental procedure, they would abstain from sex for a month.
Why is that even an answer? I don't understand. I mean, was that something that someone came up and they were like, we're going to use this answer as an option for the rest of the respondents? Or was that like an answer on the study?
I don't know, but
which would you rather do?
Right? I would rather not have sex for a month than have a filling. Wow.
It's totally worth the money for the gas dentists. It's really fantastic. You get yourself an Uber there, you get yourself an Uber back, and you go into one of these dentists. Yes, they charge more, but you're gassed out for the whole thing. And that's what I recommend. So,
and my kids like them. What else we got?
Well, we've got a woman in Florida, a Florida woman, as opposed to a Florida man, who has decided to protest her water bill by paying with nearly $500 worth of pennies. I always enjoy it every time some government entity ends up getting paid some asinine fine in pennies. I think it's great, and I think it's even better when you post it on social media, which this woman did.
49,000 pennies. But hold on, why was her water bill nearly $500? Holy crap!
So it said that she said in the article, it's quoted saying, she said city officials told her the high water bills are likely the cause of a leak in her system, but a plumber and a leak detector told her that was not the case. I think what the people meant to say was the high water bills are likely because of a leak, not the cause of a leak. But that's really, if there's no leak, then I don't really know how something could be $493.
Yeah, that's an insane water bill. It seems like you could run a laundromat and not run that kind of water bill.
Right. I mean, we got 9 people in my house, and my water bill's like $50.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got a lot of small children that only bathe when they're made to.
Right. I always ask them, I'm like, when did you shower last? And they're like, and I'm like, if your answer wasn't or isn't last night, go take a shower.
If you have to think that long, it's been too long. If it's not a vivid memory, then
right.
Go take another one. A city in Southern California has banned texting while crossing the street. So we're taking distracted driving to a whole new level. City of Montclair and apparently the city of Honolulu does this as well, but apparently as of right now you only get a warning for crossing the street. However, police will start handing out fines in August. It's a $100 fine for the first violation, $200 for the second violation within 12 months, and $500 for each subsequent violation. Bringing this back to Georgia, I know that I don't think it's a problem in a lot of our other colleges, but I know that I've seen reports in the AJC and other outlets that this is a legitimate concern around Georgia State and around Georgia Tech.
Really?
Yeah, they're just out there. They're just wandering off the curbs, with cell phone in hand, right out in front of traffic. And
well, I think it's a problem in a lot of places. I mean, I see it just like in mall or shopping center parking lots. Someone won't even be paying attention to where they're going, and they just stumble out, and you have to slam on your brakes because they're not even looking as cars are backing up or anything. Personally, I mean, I think it's just a revenue thing. I don't really think that this will deter anybody. And also, I mean, is it a report? Like if I call and file a complaint that someone was texting while walking, and are they going to come out and cite them, or is it just if the officer sees them? I mean, how are they going to enforce this?
I'd hate to be the 911 operator that catches that call. The hell's wrong with you? Call me back when you got something real.
This is for emergency use only. Speaking of something real, WhoaVicky originally from Hiram, now living in Marietta, she was arrested in a mall fight a few nights back up in North Carolina. So that's
tell people who WhoaVicky is.
I mean, if you don't know, then what are you doing listening to this show? But
she's a white girl that likes to.
It's difficult to explain, isn't it, Matt?
It is difficult to explain without sounding racist as crap. It's really what it is. But I mean, she's a white girl that likes to say she's black. She wears her hair in braids and has gold teeth. And I don't know, the first video I saw of her, she was singing along to some song I didn't recognize in what looked to be like a 84 Ford Escort or something in the parking lot of a mall.
You know, I think that the greatest little thing that I've ever seen from her was on Twitter. She had tweeted an image of herself holding two guns, and it said something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it tagged the post at APD Police Station Zone 6. And APD's social media people,
I remember that.
yeah, they were thoughtful enough to retweet the photo with and add above it, "This is not Zone 6."
Right.
But you know, it's one of those things. She's really one of those people. I don't know. You know, there's really no middle ground there. Either it is genius social commentary on race for the 21st century, or she's a complete nutbag, and I'm not sure which one it is.
Man, I don't know. Either way, 1.4 million followers. She's probably making money at it. So,
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Yes. If you would
absolutely.
like to help, let me tell you why you're wrong. Get more followers than WhoaVicky. Make sure to follow us on Facebook.
Instagram, Twitter.
We're everywhere. Just find us. And you know, also, you know, let's move on to the guns for a minute here. It looks like Walmart is considering banning toy guns. So, toy guns.
I saw that. Is it all toy guns or just the toy guns that look like assault rifles, like some of the airsoft and Nerf guns?
You know,
Not that it matters. It's stupid. They can do what they want, obviously, but
yeah, I mean, basically what it says is, in the statement, Walmart said, "We are also removing items from our website resembling assault-style rifles, including non-lethal airsoft guns and toys." And, you know, I have kind of a controversial opinion here. I'm not really for banning anything. I don't really care what Walmart does. However, I personally don't allow my children to play with toy guns.
we don't have toy guns in our house until the kids are old enough to understand the difference. And my reasoning for that is we have real guns in our house, and I don't ever want there to be confusion.
Yeah, absolutely. That's basically kind of, you know, that's what my thought process is as well. Is that I don't want these, you know, I don't want ever I don't want to begin teaching a child the idea that the proper thing to do with a gun is to pick it up, point it at somebody, and pull the trigger.
Right.
And you know, that's kind of that's where toy guns lead. Is that, you know, you're kind of, you're, as a parent, when you're allowing your children to play with toy guns, if you're a gun owner and you intend to move them up to real guns at some point, then what you're doing is you're backtracking yourself, because you're telling them one thing and telling them that this thing is okay, and then when they get older, you're telling them that this thing that was okay is no longer okay anymore, and now this is the new rules. Whereas, why not just teach them one set of rules from the beginning, which is don't point guns at anything you don't intend to destroy.
And I mean, I'm not going to chime in on the parental side of things because I don't have children and my dogs don't play with guns. But, you know, I agree with everything you've said so far. And I, of course, respect Walmart's decision to do whatever they want as a business owner. But my question is, what good is Walmart's decision going to do?
Well, I mean, know,
it'll probably up Target's sales of airsoft guns.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about that is that some of those things look really, really real.
Yeah, they do.
Sure.
Now, I've seen guys, pull airsoft parts off of a gun and add it to real guns. Obviously, unknowingly committing felonies because they are typically making things like short barrel rifles and whatnot.
I read everything that both of y'all write, and I read a lot of what I write. Some of it I don't read, but I read a lot of what I write. But in any event, let's start with this. Jessica, what the hell is microblading?
Okay, so microblading is the Georgia Legislature's newest initiative, public safety or public health initiative that some of our beloved legislators have taken on. And basically, it's like a semi-permanent eyebrow tattoo that fills in gaps. And so, of course, the anti-women legislators under the Gold Dome in the House, like Paulette Rakestraw and Karen Mathiak and Betty Price and, the usual suspects, they want to regulate it and put it under the same stringent rules as tattooing because safety.
Man.
Well, you just said it was tattooing, right?
It's not permanent.
Where is this done at?
Your eyebrows.
No. I mean, like, if you're, is this like a salon thing? What are we talking?
Yeah, like this isn't something that women are. I mean, I'm sure there are people who do it on themselves in their home or something, but like most of the time, you get it done at a salon or, they have like eyebrow boutiques now, or you can get, like woven and waxed and all different kinds of things. So.
I've looked into it a little bit, but not a whole lot. What exactly does regulating like tattoos? I mean, what? Well, I'm assuming that we're talking like the full-on Board of Health treatment here.
Right, and it's about it has to be in a permanent structure, and that was the code section it was relating to. I'm not sure how many women are traveling around in a van offering microblading services, but. Basically, it would just put them in the same classification as tattooing for, inspections and building requirements.
Ah, okay. So, and this has passed over from the House. This is now in the Senate. So, if you would like to continue to be able to be microbladed, then contact your local senator. So, speaking of crossover day, I know that we had a lot that did make the cut and did make it across. I know that the marijuana bill did make it across. The main Allen Peaks bill did manage to fly into the Senate.
Was it Allen Peaks bill or was he just a co-sponsor?
I really should know, but honestly, I don't know.
The only reason I say that is because in doing some bill analysis this year, I was surprised to learn at how many bills he was second or third signer on. And I wondered if that was because he's leaving and he wants those people to like pick up the initiative. I don't know. I was just surprised that he wasn't number one signer on a lot of the bills when last year and the year before he seemed to be number one.
Yeah, and you're probably very likely correct. That seems.
I usually am.
Well, thank you.
So another bill that passed through the House yesterday was House Bill 624, which doubles, or a little bit more than doubles, the state retirement benefits for our state legislators. So they voted to approve their own increase, and it goes from $28 per year served to $50 per year served. And it passed 117 to 42, so only 42 people voted no, which I think is terribly disappointing. And unfortunately, from what I can see from the list, or we don't know till next week for sure with qualifying, but nobody on the list who voted no is actually on the list of the retirees. So the people who are on their way out are just padding their pockets on their way out the door.
Well, look, our legislators work very, very hard.
They do not. 40
whole days a year.
Yes.
It is.
They are part-time. They are not worthy of any type of benefit, whether it be health insurance or retirement or anything. I don't even want them to get a discount at the library.
Didn't I see something floated last year about moving state reps to a full-time thing with like $60,000 a year salaries and that kind of nonsense?
Yes. So there was a initiative after a study committee produced documents saying that, our legislators are paid middle of the road and they need to make more money. And if they made more money, then, they could commit to this full time, and, you would get more than just the retired folks, and you wouldn't hurt families to serve in the legislature. But I saw that as a recipe for disaster. And thankfully, I think the only thing that kept that from happening is that it's an election year.
Yeah, I truly did enjoy some of those arguments regarding that. That was truly some great stuff. Well, look, the problem is that I can't afford to run for the legislature right now. But if I could make $145,000 a year, I could totally afford it.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
The other argument is that all these people say, well, we would have better representation if they were full-time or if they were compensated. You get what you pay for. Anybody checked how much we pay Congress right now?
That's exactly what I was thinking. And not only that, but as much as we trash the Georgia legislature, I greatly prefer pretty much anybody in the Georgia legislature over a congressman.
I don't.
Well,
I leaned into the mic too. So
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah. There are no good government officials.
No, there are no good government officials.
None? Not even one.
Well, Peaceold, obviously, he came on to tell people why they were wrong. So, but people think that...
I had somebody comment about, I hate to cut you off, but I'm going to.
No, please.
I had somebody comment to me about that episode, and they were saying that was one of their most favorite moments in radio ever. And I was like, why? And he said that a sitting rep coming in to talk about crap legislation and telling you why it's crap was just, it's not something that you typically see.
No, and people would respect their legislators a heck of a lot more if when something was wrong, they said something instead of being like, well, I sit 2 seats away from him, so I don't want to ruffle any feathers. We're all so tired of that. And it's not just the cynical people, like regular people who are not politically inclined or involved are tired of the BFF under the dome.
Yeah, but they don't do anything about it. There's a whole lot of, fire them all. They should all be voted out, except for my guy.
He's my friend. He calls me, and we go to the same church. That is always, of all of the excuses for just allowing bad legislators to skate, he goes to my church. Is the
He's
one
a good
that I
man.
hear the most often. Yeah, he goes
He's a
to
good
my
father.
church. Yeah, he's been my Sunday school teacher for 4 or 5 years. I don't care. He's raising my taxes.
Right. He's stealing your money.
Well, by the time everyone's listening to this, it will be March 5th. Is that correct? Yes. And qualifying will be open, so anyone can qualify against their state senator or their state representative to run for office, and we encourage you all to do it.
Speaking of that, have you ever seen the paperwork that's involved with qualifying to run in, at least as a Republican in the state of Georgia?
I have. Have you?
I have. I was. It was in 2016. I ran, and I was shocked by the Pledge of Allegiance to the Republican Party that I had to sign.
Well, do you know why that is so worthless?
Why?
Because when they don't stick to their pledge to the allegiance of the party of limited government and conservatism, there's no punishment.
Oh no, there was no mention. There was no mention of limited government and whatever. It was just like you're pledging your allegiance to the Georgia Republican Party, and that was it.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that the Republican Party is the party of limited government?
I'm saying it was.
Used to be.
I think that's still on the website.
Yeah, well,
let me click on over here real quick and let's check that out.
I mean,
Actually, no, they are. Theirs is we believe in the power. The principles of the Georgia Republican Party are simple. We believe in the power of the individual, and we always choose freedom. If you choose freedom, sign up for our latest updates.
oh, well, how do they define freedom? Because I'm looking at the bills they voted on yesterday, and it doesn't sound much like freedom at all.
Yeah, I know. There's not a whole lot of that going around in there, is there?
When you go to georgiagop.org, the first thing you see is a photo. It's a nice silhouetted photo of a small child wearing glasses, holding an American flag, holding what looks like his father's hands, with a huge white caption over the top of it that says, "Choose freedom."
Yep.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Again, how do they define freedom? Because I don't think it means what they think it means.
Yeah, I mean, we're going through the modern underground railroad to get cannabis to epileptic children in this state. Choose freedom.
Oh, hold on. Only the selected kids can choose freedom.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
There's only like, I don't know how many. We're out of my wheelhouse on that one, Giles. That's all you.
There's like, I want to say that there's, I don't know how many are children. I haven't seen that breakdown. I know how many I know, but I think there's like 1,200 people on the gold card registry right now. And I will tell you that not all the patients are on the registry, simply due to the fact that with no dispensaries, the registry is worthless. You're basically, telling the government, yeah, we use cannabis products, but, it doesn't help you buy them. You can't use it in another state. So,
Well, that brings up an interesting point because it has been an issue in the governor's race already is, consistency and when you can break federal law, when it's civil disobedience, and when it's just going against, the power of the branches of government and the levels of government. So,
I think it's pretty simple. Anything related to guns, you can clearly violate federal law. Anything regarding to cannabis, oh no, we must hold true to federal law. If it involves gay marriage, then at that point we can break federal law. I think those are the rules.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I would have to check the bylaws just to be on the...
Are those written down somewhere? No.
So, another bill that was a little bit about freedom and, we had to strike that down and it got postponed on Monday was a bill that would have pulled in the civil forfeiture practices in our state. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's when law enforcement or authorities seize your money or belongings before conviction. And it's been a huge controversy in recent years, but State Representative Scott Turner, who isn't my favorite, but when you're right, you're right. He wanted to reduce or increase the state's burden of proof from a preponderance of evidence to clear and convincing, which would have, raised the burden on the state side. But of course, they postponed that in the House and it didn't make it across on crossover. So now he's either got to wait until next year or find another bill to attach it to. But if they don't want it, then it doesn't matter how many bills he attaches it to. So.
Do you guys agree with the idea of civil forfeiture
Mm-mm.
in general?
Hell no.
You know who I think is probably the worst offender of that is the Department of Natural Resources. Every hunter I've ever spoken to can tell you a story about their buddy or themselves who broke some game law, and part of the punishment for that was they lost their truck, guns, four-wheelers, campers, anything they were in possession of at the time that they broke the law. Was that snapping that I heard?
Yes.
It's one of those things where I'm not sure that I am 100% opposed to it after a conviction, depending on the circumstances. However, I am 100% opposed to it pre-conviction. And there is no convincing me that, oh, well, this instance is just so open and shut. No, take that to trial. If you get a guilty verdict, then at that point, asset forfeiture could possibly be something to discuss if it's related to the incident that you're discussing. I mean, because look, here's the ultimate deal. The fact of the matter is, if you have something that's, say you go to the other extreme where there's absolutely no asset forfeiture, then, robbing banks becomes a net win. Because, I go rob, 6 banks a day until I get caught. Then I do 10 years. Then I come back out and I'm a millionaire.
Yeah, but can you claim the stolen goods as an asset? I mean,
I think our U.S. government does.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's a net win.
It's just 10 years. When I come out, I'm going to have millions.
Right? I'll be 40 next week. I should have robbed a couple banks a decade ago.
Wow. Are you going to talk about what it's like to apply for AARP and stuff on the show next week?
No, man. That's a couple more years away. AARP. Come on.
Yeah. I was expecting there to be a wild party. There is no wild party. It's like, yeah, y'all come on over. We're grilling out.
Kid friendly. Well, here's the thing, man. When you got as many kids as I do, it's not an easy thing to do. Plus, anyone that would be babysitting for us, you obviously want to invite. So it's kid friendly 40th birthday for Matt. Back on bills, though, there was there was that one bill that I liked that got stalled, and that had to do. Yeah, it was the one that I believe it was Spencer Fry was one of the sponsors on it. I don't remember who it was. Anyway, yeah, I think you're right too. It stalled out, but I believe that it stalled out because there was another bill floating around that did the same thing, only it had a much broader reach in that any money that was, any money that came under some special bill, they said, we're going to attach this tax to it, and it's going to be spent on this, So
I believe what you're talking about is it's a constitutional amendment that's going to be on the ballot, I think, in November, and it would require that any fund go to the allocated source and not just the general fund. So I think that's why yours got
right. That's exactly what I was wondering, and I was curious if either of you knew what the fate of that bill was. I'm a fan of that. If you're going to steal my money and tell me it's going somewhere, at least put it there.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people really don't understand is, the way that Georgia law works. A legislator can stand in the well or stand at your local party meeting or in the local breakfast biscuit hut and tell you whatever they want. But the fact of the matter is, if they are raising unless there's a separate constitutional amendment to that bill, if they are raising your taxes for anything, regardless of what they say, that money's going in the general fund. Now, they may try next year to pull that money out and put it where they want it to go in the budget. But that money is going in the general fund. All of it. And a lot of people don't understand that.
I don't know, man. Do they care? I mean,
people care. I mean, it's like,
Jessica, what's the numbers on your poll
about the use of money?
Yeah.
Right now, there are 133 votes, and 111 of them are concerned that the local government was spending money at a restaurant. 111. 22 people said no, which I felt like was a lot of people.
Right. What's that percentage?
I have to take the poll to do it. Hold on.
17.
84 to 16.
Okay, 16%.
Yeah.
16%. That would probably carry over. That kind of number would carry over, as a total, that there's, 15 or 16% of the population that simply does not care what the government does with the money they steal from us.
Well, and the other side of that is that there's a lot of people that are just, they're all for lower taxes, but these people that they're not actually willing to give anything up. And that's something I see a lot in local government. Everybody, oh, my property taxes are so high. Oh, this is so high. Oh, that's so high. SPLOST. But, I mean, none of these people are like, hey, maybe if we didn't have so many parks, or maybe if we didn't have a bus line, or let's talk about possibly going to a 4-day school week to save some money. Nobody's about that. They want all of those services, but they don't want to do anything for them. They don't want to give anything up.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago here in Paulding County, there was a vote for a SPLOST tax that was going to go to the Department of Education. And like everyone was saying, we have to vote for this. We have to renew this SPLOST fund so that our property taxes will stay lower. So they renewed it and then promptly raised our property taxes.
Yeah, that's always one of my favorites too. You have to vote for the SPLOST, otherwise we'll raise your taxes.
It's a very irritating thing. I don't know, though. Lots of things about the Board of Education, especially here in Paulding County, really irritate me. I know last week we talked a little bit about the fact that I was going to pick a fight with them. And I've started laying the groundwork for that. But the biggest thing that they do that annoys me at this point is their complete and total lack of response. I emailed, I think it was 8 board members on Monday, asking them a really simple question. And I got a response from one guy.
Congratulations, you got a response.
Right? The funny thing about that is he didn't completely answer the question, but that's fine too. I was happy for the response, I guess.
The government you deserve.
Right. Man, just that whole, they really just arbitrarily decide to extort money off the property owners. And then they don't answer people when they reach out to them. I think we were even talking about it earlier this week, the three of us were, that if you wanted to appear before the board and speak, you had to apply 5 days in advance.
That's insane. That's obnoxiously insane. You should be able to sign up at the meeting in order. Like, just sign on up on a list. Going back to your other question about the bills and the fees dedicated, it's House Resolution 158, and it did pass out of the Senate or out of the House, and it's been read in the Senate for the first time. So it's just awaiting a committee assignment. So that's actually good news because it's all encompassing. It just says that if, they pass a law that says revenues have to go to a certain place, they can no longer be allocated to the general fund. They must go to the place they were dedicated. So we'll keep you updated on that one. But.
Man, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So here in Douglas County and in a lot of the country, to be honest, there have been walkouts related to gun control. There have been walkouts. There's talk of more walkouts coming up in March as well as in April. So, I know where we're at on gun control. And there's nothing really shocking or new about that. But I'm just curious, leaving gun control aside and just discussing the idea of students conducting walkouts, where are we at on that? What are our thoughts?
I think it could be a teachable moment. Let them demonstrate. And then, teach, go back to the, after, I don't know what it was, 17 minutes or something like that. Go back to the classroom and then, spend the rest of the time of that class talking about the history of peaceful demonstrations in this country and the things that it has accomplished. And I'm of the opinion that they would learn more in that one class period than they would the whole rest of the week.
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, I think that speaking up for what you believe in is important in any capacity, but I think we're getting in. We've exhausted this conversation, and in every capacity that we're talking about it, and at what point does it become disruptive to the school day? It's also a school day where students don't get to choose like how their time is spent, and this just seems to be going on and on and on. These demonstrations and these protests and these moments of public outcry. At what point do we just say enough is enough? This is public school. Let's get back to work.
Right. And I feel that I'm okay with, I like the idea of civic engagement. I question exactly, just how much knowledge are we dealing with here, and how much of this is follow the leader, and are these leaders even students, or are they just, are these adults with an agenda that are driving these students? And it's a very difficult conversation to have, because most people that are having this conversation, I know that, I feel that all three of us are above this and can differentiate the two. But I think a lot of the conversation that I've seen on Twitter and on Facebook and whatnot this week regarding this has been very much tainted because of the fact that it's gun control that they're talking about. People that would absolutely not support this if it were anything other than gun control coming out for it. And folks on the other side that would wholly be for these kids doing this if they were marching for, the pro-life movement or for guns, something like that. But because it's an anti-gun march, suddenly they're opposed. And, I do agree that, this is public school. We're paying for this. And, the politics shouldn't be there. But, on the other hand, I also am inclined to kind of agree with Matt that, those kids, handled properly, could learn an awful lot in that time period. Now, on the other hand, I remember when I was in high school and I would walk out for a cheeseburger. I mean,
Right. Walk to the back parking lot, smoke a cigarette.
well, sometimes a cigarette.
Y'all are terrible. I sat in class and learned.
Yeah, well, my mother listens to this show, so did I.
Well, my mom listens to this show too, but as we discussed earlier, I'm nearly 40, so I don't get in trouble for things anymore.
Oh, Lord, I see. I have a completely different perception knowing that your mother listens to this show.
Why is that?
I mean, it's like, my mom is one thing, but I mean, your mom. I don't know. I always, I never want to cuss around your mom, mostly because it's like
Well, that's because you typically see her during the holidays, and
she's Mrs. Claus to me.
My mom and her husband are Santa and Mrs. Claus, and so yeah, you see her as Mrs. Claus, and nobody wants to cuss around Santa. So I mean, I guess I'll bring this back to bad behavior in school. In Paulding County alone, this week, there have been 3 students arrested and charged with felony counts of terroristic threats for talking about shooting up the school.
Wow.
All 3 were females. 2 were, 17. And one last night was a 13-year-old female from the middle school.
13.
13 is actually my daughter's middle school. But I don't like, man, you aren't even out of school yet, and that the 13-year-old, she's got a chance because that's going to be handled by the as a juvenile, and that record will ultimately be sealed and expunged and whatnot. But those other 2, they've got a felony that's going to walk with them for the rest of their life. And I think I found the whole thing odd because I would typically expect something like that out of boys. But all 3 cases were female.
I'm very surprised because almost all of the instances that have happened around here have been male.
Y'all have had kids getting arrested for that this week?
Not all of them have. From my understanding, there have not been arrests, which has been a huge contention in the community because it's mostly been like, hey, don't do that. There was one at a private school around here, and my understanding is that he was expelled and is no longer even in the community. So I think that was just handled more close to home. But the ones at the public schools have not yielded any true punishment. So, I mean, do you feel like a terroristic threat is the correct punishment for something like this?
Well, I think that's probably the correct charge that law enforcement would use. Obviously, it's all going to go through the court system. It'll probably get reduced. I would be curious to, I'm a big context guy. What was the context that all this was happening in, right? And I think that the sheriff's office here probably did their jobs and figured out what that is. But I think that terroristic threats is probably the only thing they can use, and then they'll let the district attorney go from there. You think terroristic threats is the wrong charge?
I don't know that it's a wrong charge because, I think a lot of these kids who do it I don't think a lot of them have intentions of actually doing it. I think they just get into the hype of what's going on. And I'm not by any means saying that's okay. But when you said that some of them were 17, I was just thinking from the standpoint of, wow, they've ruined their lives if that is the charge that sticks.
Right. Now, see, because what it was when we were kids, not we like you two young whippersnappers. When I was a kid, they didn't even have caller ID yet, and folks would phone in a bomb threat, and we'd have to go sit on the football field for a while.
Yeah.
And I remember, it's funny. Me and my wife were talking about it, and she said, we're sitting out there on the bleachers one day, and I'm thinking, if someone was going to blow the place up, they should put the bomb on the bleachers.
I recall when I was in high school that we had these payphones up near the office, and we had this kid that I had known this kid since kindergarten. He decided he was going to call in a bomb threat from the payphone, and this is on the phone network in the school. The only way they caught him was they had to roll back the security video.
Oh gosh, what an idiot!
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I can't imagine being in high school now with all this going on. Particularly like Matt said, it's and I don't know if it's going on in other parts of the community and it's just not being recorded because, Matt is really, really on it, but it's insane how many threats I've seen come out of Paulding County. All of them are just hoaxes, but
we have all on Georgia markets across the state, and I think that just about every all on Georgia market has had a threat. So, if that tells you anything, and they're just not getting publicized the way that the bigger communities are. Well, and the other sad part of it is that there are people who are genuinely scared to go to school right now.
I've got one. I have my fourth grader. He's terrified to go. It keeps him up at night. He sits here and he now there's multiple things at play here. He's got there's some kids that are bullying him a little bit, and we're dealing with that. But he's scared to death of those kids and to just go to school. It's annoying.
It's annoying that in some households it's not taken as seriously when there are kids who are scared,
right? Genuinely
scared. So.
And really what I think the easiest course of action for me would be figure out who that kid is. No one will tell me, by the way, and just go talk to their parents. Mm-hmm. I legitimately believe that would fix the problem right then.
Sure.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. And that's not some blustered threat. Just go.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not talking about
Look,
walking in there and be like, I'm going to kick your ass. No, it's like, hey, your boy is doing this, and he shouldn't. And, and that would be the end of it, I think.
Yeah. Because that's the reality. As difficult as it is to believe in this business, I truly do believe, and I force myself sometimes at the end of the day to believe most people are good people.
I think they are. Most folks.
Luke Bryan song.
I wouldn't know. I don't listen to Luke Bryan.
And he's from down there.
My friends down here, it is a Luke Bryan song.
Yeah.
People down here are listening to him, so shout out to you, South Georgia.
What are you listening to is the question.
You.
Well, I don't mean right now. Clearly you don't listen to these podcasts over and over and over.
I listen to this podcast at least 3 times.
Yes, you do. Because you send me text about things I need to correct, and it's like just this constant onslaught of fix this, fix that. Go to 40 minutes and 13 seconds. There's a click. Can you remove it?
Well, it's a podcast. All we have is audio. So, yeah, we were talking about concluding thoughts.
Okay. We have an all-new website. It's a beautiful website. It's a fast website. So you can now go to allongeorgia.com. I know I said that last week, but this week I mean it. Speaking of things I said last week that this week I mean, I told you last week we would have Alan Peake on the show. We have confirmed that. However, in my negligent booking, both I and Alan Peake didn't realize when we booked him that we had booked him for crossover day. So obviously that wasn't going to work. So we will have Alan on next week and we will discuss the cannabis legislation thoroughly. Everything going on with cannabis legislation in Georgia, where we're going, where we're coming from, what we hope to accomplish this year, what we hope to accomplish on down the line, and I will tell you why any cannabis legislation without in-state cultivation is absolutely worthless, and I will provide you with in-depth experiences never before heard on the air.
My concluder is contact your federal representatives and have them renew the LWCF, which is the Land and Water Conservation Fund. It's a fund that is not paid for by the taxpayers. It's when an energy company drills for oil or gas way offshore, they pay a portion of the royalties for the leases to the federal government, and then those funds are used for all kinds of things. And like, there's not a single county in the nation that has not had a project funded by the LWCF. And it is set to expire in September of this year if it doesn't get renewed.
Okay. And my final thought is that it's the beginning of the month. So you should all whip out your calendars, go to your local government website if you have one, and make plans to attend a local meeting this month for your city or your county or both, and get involved, or the Board of Education, but whatever, public education. But get involved and show up and hold your elected officials accountable.